Hare Krishna, dear devotees, and our special guest. Welcome to our Sunday online Sangha on behalf of Shri Gaunitai Mandir. So, I want to welcome, special welcome to our very special guest. I now ask Yashika to introduce our guest to our online Sangha. After the lecture, we will have a bit of Kirtan program. So, you please stay on. Okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I would like to welcome everyone once again to our Sunday Feast program. Today, we are very fortunate to have His Grace Sesa Prabhuji with us today. Prabhuji joined ISKCON in 1973 when he was inspired by the political activism movement of the In God We Trust Party for Purified Leaders, which was organized by ISKCON members and was initiated by Srila Prabhupada in 1974. Prabhuji attended the U.S. Military Academy and earned his Juris Doctor degree from UCLA School of Law. He has served as temple president of both Washington, D.C. as well as Philadelphia. He's the managing editor of the Back to Godhead magazine, as well as North American trustee of the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust. Prabhuji is also a member of the GBC and currently serves as Minister of Education and Justice in ISKCON. So we're really fortunate to have Prabhuji, and without further ado, I would like to pass it on to him. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, all the devotees there at ISKCON Ottawa. It's my great fortune to be able to be with you today on this auspicious celebration of Sri Radharani. What I thought I would like to do to begin our celebration is to sing a nice bhajan, a very beautiful bhajan, actually written by Srila Jiva Goswami, Krishna Mai Prema Radha. It's a very, very beautiful bhajan about Radha and Krishna. And we have some kirtaniyas here that are going to sing that for us. I believe that Lakshmi Moni Mataji told me that either the lyrics were going to be distributed to everyone there or put on the shared screen. I know that sort of call and response type of kirtans don't work so well on Zoom. So I guess if that facility to have the bhajan put up is there, that would be good. Otherwise, we could just follow along with the kirtaniyas. So why don't we start that kirtan now, and then we'll discuss the glories of Srimati Radharani. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Prema Mai Radha, Radha Prema Mayani, Krishna Prema Mai Radha, Radha Prema Mayani, Jivane Nidone Nitya, Jivane
before I read the translation to this wonderful, beautiful bhajan, let me just thank the Kirtaniyas. They are Aruna Das, who is my brother-in-law, Vadamati Dasi, who is his sister, and my daughter, Shama Darshini, was the primary singer of the bhajan. Radha is made of pure love for Krishna, and Hari is made of pure love for Radha. In life or in death, Radha and Krishna are my eternal shelter. Radha is the treasure of Krishna, and Hari is the treasure of Radha. In life or in death, Radha and Krishna are my eternal shelter. Krishna pervades the life force of, Radha pervades the life force of Krishna, and Hari pervades the life force of Radha. In life or in death, Radha and Krishna are my eternal shelter. Radha is totally melted with Krishna, and Hari is totally melted with Radha. In life or in death, Radha and Krishna are my eternal shelter. Radha is situated in the body of Krishna, and Hari is situated in the body of Radha. In life or in death, Radha and Krishna are my eternal shelter. Radha is fixed in the heart of Krishna, and Hari is fixed in the heart of Radha. In life or in death, Radha and Krishna are my eternal shelter. Radha wears cloth of blue color, and Hari wears cloth of yellow. In life or in death, Radha and Krishna are my eternal shelter. Radha is the mistress of Vrindavan, and Krishna is the master of Vrindavan. In life or in death, Radha and Krishna are my eternal shelter. Srila Jiva Goswami Maharaj Ki. Such a beautiful bhajan that gives an artistic picture of the discussion of Radha and Krishna and who they are, that I wanted to take a few minutes to share with you this evening. When people generally, well, first let me offer my pranams, because one cannot speak on subject matters such as Srimati Radharani without taking permission from the previous acharyas. Actually, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada writes in a purport about the mood that one who writes or speaks about transcendental subject matter should, how they should be orientated. He says that it is by the mercy of all the Vaishnavas that I attempt to write about the pastimes and qualities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Whether I know it or don't know it, it is for self-purification that I write the book. And dear devotees, that's how I approach this time with you this evening, that is for my self-preservation, purification, preservation too. And so therefore, let me first, before doing anything else, offer my pranams to you and all the Vaishnavas. Vanchikalpa Tarubhyascha, Kipa Sindhubhya Evacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo. Now, another pranam that needs to be offered begins with the recognition that the subject matter that we're discussing is adhokshaja. It's beyond the range of our ordinary sense perception, ordinary mental abilities and capabilities. It's adhokshaja, not akshaja, within our range of understanding. Therefore, we should take permission, particularly this evening as we're going to be speaking about Srimati Radharani. We should take permission from Srimati Radharani and beg for her mercy that we may say something that is useful or in glorification of her. And so there's a pranam mantra for Srimati Radharani that we generally sing when we do the Mangalacharana. So we'll recite that also, hoping to gain the mercy of Srimati Radharani. Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye. Prabhupada says about this that it's our business to pray to Radharani. Radharani, you are so dear to Krishna, so we offer our respectful obeisances unto you. And then finally, what entrance would we have into any of the intricacies of Krishna Leela, of Radha Tattva? What access do we
Ilya Prabhu?
Yes, Hare Krishna. It seems we lost connection with Sesa Prabhu.
Is the communication okay with the guest speaker?
No, we lost connection with him.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it is from him. Okay. All right, so we'll wait and see.
electricity went off for a few seconds. But can you hear me now? Is it all right?
Yes, we can, Prabhu. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So I was just offering my pranams to Srila Prabhupada. So there's no harm in repeating that. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shima Devakti Vedanta Swamiti Nam. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vajnani Nirvishesha Sunivadi Paschachare Satana. I'd also like to offer my pranams and a small prayer for His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. We got the word today that he is struggling with the COVID infection. And so we're praying to Srila Prabhupada, Lord Krishna, and ultimately Srimati Radharani, that he be protected so that his very, very valuable service, his loving service to his spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, will continue in this world. Hare Krishna. So, Srimati Radharani. Generally speaking, when people see a picture of Krishna, the question comes to their mind about who is the girl with Krishna? Or sometimes even worse question is, why is Krishna with that girl? This reveals not only just a misunderstanding, that's too mild a statement, but it indicates a almost exploitive attitude towards the Lord's energy. Materialistic persons cannot understand Shri Radha and Krishna. Even standing together in a picture, what to speak of as their pastimes are described in the Shastra. And they can't understand because their basic orientation towards life is how to exploit the material nature. How to exploit the material nature. So if we're going to understand anything about Radharani, we have to start with removing that contamination from our heart. That's why I speak in terms of self-purification as we speak, self-purification as we worship, because that contamination will completely mislead us when we're trying to understand who is Srimati Radharani. Actually, Srila Prabhupada was once challenged. Why does Krishna dance with other people's wives? He challenged like that. But undaunted, Srila Prabhupada replied to him, why have you taken Krishna's wife as yours? And although it seems like just a conversation where two people may have been speaking sharply to one another, if we examine Srila Prabhupada's statement in this regard, we find that it was completely based in Shastra. In the Upanishad, which is from the Upanishadic section of the Vedas, the philosophical section of the Vedas, and in that philosophical section of the Vedas, we find very accurate descriptions of the absolute truth and the potency of the absolute truth. So Prabhupada gave us Upanishad. And in the Upanishad, mantra number 1 explains that Ishavashamidam sarvam yat kincha jigatyam jigat tena tak tena bunjita magada kashasid danam. Everything animate or inanimate within this world is controlled and owned by the Supreme Lord. And so when Prabhupada said, why have you taken your wife from Krishna? He was explaining the actual fact, the truth, that everything, whether it's inanimate or whether it's animate persons, all of them are only controlled by the Lord. And that understanding, that's a very basic understanding we must have when we try to understand who is Srimati Radharani. She, just like everything else, animate or inanimate, in this universe, outside this universe, is owned and controlled by the Lord. That's the meaning of God, or the Supreme Controller. That everything is his property and his control. And so when we approach anything, we approach the material nature, we approach other people, we approach any opulences that we see around us, we should understand that they belong to Krishna. And our approach to them has to be through that. Otherwise, we'll be misled. So, who is that girl with Krishna? That's described in the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam in a purport by Srila Prabhupada in a very, very wonderful way. And it's a philosophical statement of the beautiful bhajan that we just sang. Prabhupada says in a purport there that Srimati Radharani is the tender-hearted feminine counterpart of the Supreme Whole. Such a beautiful, beautiful statement by Srila Prabhupada. I'll read it again. Srimati Radharani is a tender-hearted feminine counterpart of the Supreme Whole. That's who the girl with Krishna is. And so we have to understand factually who are Radha and Krishna. And this rather philosophical statement gives us that orientation. So I want to go through this step by step so we can get an understanding of what's being said here about Srimati Radharani. First of all, let's do the end part of the statement, which is counterpart of the Supreme Whole. If we go to a dictionary meaning of whole, we find that description is a thing that is complete in itself, is a whole. And supreme means it's superior to all others, superior to all other things. So what's being described there, the supreme whole, can be understood as the Brahman aspect of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You know, there are three aspects of the Supreme Lord. There's the Brahman, all-pervading form of the Lord, Paramatma, the Lord in the heart of every being, and Bhagavan, who is who we have a personal relationship with. And so the supreme whole, nothing being superior to that, could be understood as the Brahman aspect of the absolute truth. But that's only part of the statement, and we should understand the whole statement. The other parts of the statement are feminine counterpart. Feminine counterparts. What does that mean, feminine counterpart? Well, again, in the dictionary, a counterpart is something when added to another thing completes it or complements it. So that's rather a strange combination there. We have the complete supreme whole already, yet we're talking about adding something to it when we mention counterpart. So what is the understanding? The understanding is that Radharani is the counterpart of the supreme whole because she adds, by bringing her in contact with the supreme whole, she adds variety. She adds loving exchanges. She adds all the beautiful nature and variety of the spiritual world. She adds the pleasure potency of the Lord. She brings all these things. And so when combined with when the counterpart added to the supreme whole, it adds up to a very relishable, full of variety, eternal spiritual world. And so Srimati Radharani is I want to get this statement right, the tender-hearted feminine counterpart of the supreme whole. She adds to this supreme whole the variety and love that is found in the spiritual world. Now, it also mentions here tender-hearted feminine. So tender-hearted means that our relationship with the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Whole, and his counterpart is one of compassion and mercy. And indeed, that's the first experience we have of Srimati Radharani as we begin our Krishna conscious journey, is that as she's the mercy incarnation, the compassionate incarnation of the Supreme Lord for the living beings. We know this is manifest in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Radha, who is Krishna with the complexion of Radha, come to understand the intricacies of loving relationships and to give unparalleled opportunities to all the conditioned souls to get free from material bondage. And so the compassion, this compassion is the realm of Srimati Radharani. And so, who is that girl with Krishna? She is Srimati Radharani, who is the tender-hearted, very compassionate, always merciful to the conditioned souls, the tender-hearted, feminine, attractive, full of variety, counterpart or complement to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is who the girl with Krishna is, and we need to understand it very carefully and philosophically so that we don't fall into this exploitative approach that I was explaining just a minute ago. There's a verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita which describes Shri Radha and Krishna. It says, Radha Krishna Eka Atma Dui Deha Kari Anyonye Vishale Rasa Aspada Kari. Radha and Krishna are one and the same, but they have assumed two bodies. Thus they enjoy each other, tasting the mellows of love. This is the mystery of Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna. That originally, Eka Atma, they're one soul. They're not two. There's only one Supreme Lord. And as we quoted from the Upanishad, from Isha Upanishad earlier, Isha Vashamidam Sarvam, that Krishna is the origin of everything, of all animate and inanimate objects. And so Radha and Krishna, Eka Atma, they're one soul, but they've appeared as two. Why appear as two? To engage in loving pastimes, tasting the mellows of love. So Radharani is Krishna's expansion. Now, to understand the expansion of the Supreme Lord, we can again go to the Isha Upanishad, where the invocation of the Isha Upanishad describes that the personality of Godhead is perfect and complete, and because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself. Because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. And so Krishna, when he desires to enjoy, he expands himself. And those expansions are fully potent. There's no loss when the Lord expands himself. Now there's an example given. Again, these are philosophical concepts. And we'll get to a description of the loving exchanges between Radha and Krishna. But first, we need to establish this basis for our understanding so we don't go off track. Actually, this is the reason why Prabhupada was so insistent. And actually not just Prabhupada, but all the acharyas are very insistent about, if you want to understand Radha and Krishna's pastime in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, you must go through all the first 9 cantos very carefully and understand these truths. How Radha and Krishna are one Eka Atma, but how they expand to enjoy loving mellows. That is explained in the first canto, the first 9 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. And a common example given in this regard is this. how they're two bodies, but they're the same. Just like the sun, the example is given of the sun and the sunshine. Right now, as I'm sitting here in the room, I see the sunshine coming in the room. So I generally say, well, the sun is coming into the room. But the sun globe is not coming into the room, but the sunshine is coming into the room. So I say, and we generally say, well, the sun is shining through the window. So the sun is one distinct thing in itself, the sun globe, and the sunshine is different from the sun globe. But the sunshine can't exist without the sun globe, and the sun globe doesn't exist without the sunshine. So although they're two different manifestations, they're actually the same. And so this example is given to show how Radha and Krishna are simultaneously one and different. Of course, this philosophy of Achinta Bheda Abhed Tattva, simultaneously one and different, is just that. It's inconceivably simultaneously one and different. And so these examples can help us. But again, we have to approach with humility and beg for understanding. Otherwise it remains achinta, or inconceivable to us. But Radha and Krishna are simultaneously one, but they're different as well. And so those two have come together as one to display the wonderful pastimes. And by doing so, we get a glimpse of what is the absolute truth. Now, what is the pleasure potency? What is the pleasure potency that we're talking about that Srimati Radharani represents? We say Radharani is the pleasure potency of the Supreme Lord. What do we mean by that? Well, we know that Krishna has three primary potencies in his eternal existence: Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Sat is his eternal feature, nature of being eternal. Chit is all cognizant nature. And Ananda, or his ever blissful, fully blissful state of existence, Satchit Ananda. These are three potencies or abilities of the Supreme Lord. And when we say pleasure potency, we refer to Srimati Radharani as the pleasure potency of the Lord. What does that really mean? What does it mean when we say Radharani is the pleasure potency of the Lord? Well, we can look at ourselves and try to understand based on our own experience, whatever way we can, as guided by the Acharyas, to understand these things. And the Acharyas explain that we experience this situation where we want to enjoy ourselves. So I want to enjoy myself. As we even speak like that, I want to enjoy myself. And so it means that we're desiring to enjoy. We have the capability to desire as well as to seek out enjoyment. That ability, it's a very minute ability in this material world, as I'm sure all of us can testify to, because we've all tried for so many lifetimes to eke out pleasure in this world. And on the whole, I would say, at least my experience, I don't know about you, but on the whole, you don't get much, you don't find much, you can't absorb that much actual happiness, although we desire that very sincerely. It's just not available in the material world. But still, we have this idea that I want to enjoy. And so we try to exercise that enjoyment. And in the material realm, it works out to be exploiting others for our enjoyment. We're dependent in that regard. We're dependent beings. And so we feel that we can't fully satisfy ourselves by enjoying myself, but I have to try to do that by exploiting others, or not so harshly stated, at least in association with others. But Krishna, he also has this feeling of wanting to enjoy himself, but his nature is described in Srimad Bhagavatam as swarat, or independent, which means that he can enjoy himself. He has the potency to enjoy himself. He has the ability to desire to enjoy in many ways, and he can completely satisfy those things that he's searching for on his own. He's independent. Again, that's what makes him the Supreme Lord and differentiates him from us, that he's independent and he can fulfill all of his desires. His desire to enjoy and the ability to enjoy, these things are certainly within his grasp. And his enjoyment potency is the pleasure potency which we speak about, which is a person. So let me just ask you what you think, or who you think that person is. The Krishna's pleasure potency. Srimati Radharani. She's a person, and she is the Lord's pleasure potency. So when the Lord looks to enjoy himself, he looks to Srimati Radharani. He utilizes his own potency, his own pleasure potency. This gets back to our friend that was criticizing Prabhupada, asking why does Krishna dance with others' wives? Prabhupada said, no, you've taken someone else's wife. Because everything is owned and controlled by the Supreme Lord. He has the ability to desire and fulfill his own desires, whereas we must exploit others. So that pleasure potency that Krishna enjoys is Srimati Radharani. But there's a very interesting thing we need to know about Srimati Radharani and all expansions of the Lord, as we read from Ishvāpanishad. The Lord expands his own potency, his own energy as Srimati Radharani. And Srimati Radharani is therefore completely able to satisfy the Supreme Lord. She has the ability to express her qualities, her loving sentiments toward the Lord, or to withhold those sentiments in her relationship with the Lord. She also has her independence in this regard. And so this is very important to understand the dynamic of Radha and Krishna's Leela, because sometimes we see that Krishna is begging Radha for her association, to be able to enjoy with her. And she, in an angry mood, is saying, no, you get out from here. So what's going on there? Radharani is controlling Krishna by controlling the pleasure potency, the pleasure that she can render to Krishna. Actually, she's not putting Krishna in any kind of disadvantage. It's just a different type of enjoyment. But sometimes we read it like that, they're separated. But the separation and the union both give pleasure to Krishna. And so Radharani is a full expression of that. She has the ability to do that. So in this way, she is the pleasure potency of the Lord. And so what she does to please Krishna is to interact with him on the basis of many wonderful qualities that she has. And again, this is the bhajan that we sang. It's described so beautifully how Krishna and Radha are so intimately related, that what she does pleases him and what he does pleases her. And so it's the bhajan is such a beautiful expression of this philosophical truth of Radha and Krishna's Leela. But Radharani, she is known for having 24 qualities, 25 qualities. And I just want to read some of those to you so you can get some idea of what a wonderful person Srimati Radharani is and how she acts as the pleasure potency of Krishna by exchanging these beautiful qualities with him in various loving circumstances. Maybe I'll just go ahead and read all of them. It's rather short. 1, she is sweetness personified. 2, she is a fresh young girl. 3, her eyes are always moving. 4, she is always brightly smiling. 5, she possesses all auspicious marks on her body. 6, she can agitate Krishna by the aroma of her person. 7, she is expert in the art of singing. 8, she speaks very nicely and sweetly. 9, she is expert in presenting feminine attractions. 10, she is modest and gentle. 11, she is always very merciful. And that's one for us we need to note. 12, she is transcendently cunning. 13, she knows how to dress nicely. I'm going to read a little bit about how she dresses nicely. I think it gives you some idea of the beauty that she brings to the supreme whole. 14, she is always shy. 15, she is always respectful. 16, she is always patient. 17, she is very grave. 18, she is enjoyed by Krishna. 19, she is always situated on the highest devotional platform. 20, she is the abode of love of the residents of Gokula. 21, she can give shelter to all kinds of devotees. 22, she is always affectionate to superiors and inferiors. 23, she is always obliged by the dealings of her associates. 14, she is the greatest among Krishna's girlfriends. And 25, she always keeps Krishna under her control. So Radha and Krishna Leela is basically the interaction of Radha and Krishna based on these qualities. There's one Leela with Radha and Krishna where somehow or another, and I can't understand it, how a jackal would be being harassed by young boys in the spiritual world. But there it is, in Radha's presence, these boys, coward boys, were harassing a jackal. And Radharani, Srimati Radharani had such compassion for a jackal. But to speak of those of us who are trying to be her devotees, how merciful she'll be to us. But to a jackal, she got the boys to stop harassing that jackal and gave that jackal shelter. She's so very, very merciful. Actually, as I read through the 25 qualities, again, it struck out in my mind how she's very kind to devotees of the Lord, to the fallen. She's patient. Such a wonderful benefactor we have in Srimati Radharani. So, her qualities are never mundane. And they offer us the chance to also rid ourselves of all mundane contamination. And as I mentioned, these things are displayed in her Leela. And so I thought we would present some of her Leela so that we can get some idea of how she displays these qualities. And let's start with the Leela of coming to this material world. Actually, when it was time for Krishna's scheduled incarnation, he went to Srimati Radharani and he said to her, now it is time for us to go to Bhoma Vrindavan to enact our Leela there to attract all the living beings back home, back to Godhead. So please let's go there now. But Srimati Radharani said, no, I don't want to go to that place. Why should I go to that place? I don't want to go anywhere where there are not three things. I don't want to go anywhere where there is not Govardhan Hill. I don't want to go where the Jamuna doesn't flow there. And I don't want to go anywhere where we don't find the Brajaraj or the dust of Vrindavan. And Krishna smiled and looked at Radha and said, don't worry, I've already sent them there. They're already in Bhoma Vrindavan. So now let us go and enact our pastimes there. So she agreed on those bases. And it's interesting that those three things are the prominent things that remain in Vrindavan to this day. After so many things have become hidden after the Lord departed this world. Govardhan Hill is still there, Jamuna still flows, and the Brajaraj, or the dust of Vrindavan, can still be found there and rolled in by the devotees of the Lord. So they came to the material world. Of course, we know we just recently celebrated Shri Krishna Janmashtami, the birth of Krishna, and I'm sure that you heard and discussed and relished the Lord's pastimes and his appearance. There's an interesting thing, a couple of interesting things about Srimati Radharani's appearance in this world. Radharani was found by Rishabhanu Maharaj and his wife Kirtida on a lotus flower floating in the river. Now, that's generally not how we appear in this world. It's not even how Krishna appeared in this world. But Srimati Radharani made her appearance on the lotus flower in the river, and she was taken to the home of Rishabhanu and Kirtida. But they were a little distressed, although the child was very, very beautiful, they were a little distressed that the child would not open her eyes. She would not open her eyes. No matter what they did, they couldn't get the child to open her eyes, and they became a little worried about that. But as usual, the inhabitants of Braj, they often get together for different festivals and things like that. And so Krishna, who had appeared 1 year earlier, he's 1 year and 2 weeks older than Srimati Radharani. So he was brought by Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj to the gathering of Brijbasis at Rishabhanu and Kirtida's residence. And at one point in the time, Krishna crawled or walked over to the cradle where Srimati Radharani, as a little baby, was lying. And he held himself up and he peered over the edge of the cradle. And he looked at Srimati Radharani. And then she opened her eyes for the first time. Because Srimati Radharani had taken a vow that she doesn't want to see anything in this terrible material world until she sees Krishna. So when she had the opportunity to first see Krishna, she opened her eyes for the first time. So that's how she appeared in this Vrindavan Leela. Boma Vrindavan Leela. And she manifests various aspects of her beauty and her qualities. One of the qualities that I read was that she's an expert dresser. So I wanted to read just a short passage from the Ujjvala Nilamani by Rupa Goswami on the dress of Srimati Radharani. He describes wearing light-colored clothes during the full moon and dark colors in the moon's absence. Sri Radha dresses to please her beloved Krishna and to facilitate her nightly meetings with her gallant lover. Sri Shamasundar, her gallant lover, Sri Shamasundar. Radha's favorite outfit is a Krishna blue sari, shawl matched with a pink blouse that delights Sri Krishna. Just such amazing, detailed information about what's happening in the spiritual world. It's truly amazing, truly amazing. Radharani's upper garment is red like a ruby, and it is the favorite of Lord Hari. Radha's lower garments is the color of a blue cloud, and it is her favorite. Sri Krishna said to Sri Radha, "All glories to your wonderful ruby red silk sari. O Radha, this sari has doubled the passionate love I bear for you in my heart." So she dresses only for Krishna. And again, that point was made in the bhajan that we sang at the beginning. So would you like to hear how what Radharani's advice on love is, and what Krishna's advice on love is? Well, I think I'll share this with you. Srimati Radharani on love. Srimati Radharani said, "If you want to understand my love for Krishna, then listen. Prema is so great that even the knowers of the Vedas cannot know it, nor others who claim to know it. Sakhi, one who teaches prema to an inquisitive person cannot know it, nor can their hearer know it. It's all just imitation. Prema disappears before both the discriminate and indiscriminate, but the pure-hearted soul who is free from the discrimination and who is full of sacred greed is able to approach the throne of natural love. That is shown through the lover's activities, which are only dedicated to the happiness of the beloved. Just as a lion feeds himself on elephants, prema feeds itself, defeating all miseries that are heavy as mountains and are caused by things of this world, the next world, one's own family, one's enemies, or one's most beloved. That lion of prema is proud of its bodily luster and is fearless. He can go to sleep without worrying. He worries. What worries will the lion have when the dogs of unfavorable attachments bark? Prema shines like a lamp in the darkness. Oh, dear Sakhis, and whom else in the world, and all of the three worlds are beyond them? O Sakhi, and whom else in all the three worlds are beyond them, but in Krishna, the Prince of Cowherds, is this prema to be found? O doe-eyed girls of Vrindavan, only doe-eyed girls of Vrindavan can relish this according to their qualifications. Dear devotees, we have to understand that the love expressed between Radha and Krishna has nothing to do with this material realm, but it has everything to do with the spiritual world. The topmost part of the spiritual world is Goloka Vrindavan. And to reach that abode is very, very rare. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give us some glimpse, the understanding, like we just read of Srimati Radharani talking about prema. It's very, very rare, rarely achieved. And so we're very fortunate to be able to just approach it and hear these things. We may have some understanding of these things based on our material conditioning, but if we understand them purely, they can open up a whole new world of existence to us. And indeed, that's what we're given the opportunity to do by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is a little about Srimati Radharani on love. Let's hear what Krishna has to say on love. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Once Lord Krishna considered within his heart, everyone says that I am complete bliss, full of all rasas. All the world derives pleasure from me. Is there anyone who can give me pleasure? One who has 100 times more qualities than me could give pleasure to my mind. One more qualified than me is impossible to find in the world. But in Radha alone, I feel the presence of one who can give me pleasure. Although my beauty defeats the beauty of 10 million cupids, although it is unequaled and unsurpassed, and although it gives pleasure to the three worlds, seeing Radharani gives pleasure to my eyes. The vibration of my transcendental flute attracts the three worlds, but my ears are enchanted by the words of Srimati Radharani. Although my body lends fragrance to the entire creation, the scent of Srimati Radharani's limbs captivates my mind and heart. Although the entire creation is full of different tastes, because of me, I am charmed by the nectarian taste of the lips of Srimati Radharani. And although my touch is cooler than 10 million moons, I am refreshed by the touch of Srimati Radharani. Thus, although I am the source of happiness for the entire world, the beauty and attributes of Sri Radhika are my life and soul. In this way, my affectionate feelings for Srimati Radharani may be understood. So again, we can just hear these things about the Lord and his feelings for Srimati Radharani, his pleasure potency, and aspire to one day become qualified to enter into the pastimes of the Lord. Of course, in our line, our acharyas have chalked out that path for us also. Srimati Radharani and Sri Rupa Goswami, who's writing many of these things in Ujjvala Vilamani. In the spiritual world, he serves as Sri Rupa Manjari, a very confidential servant of Srimati Radharani. And we follow in the footsteps of these great acharyas. Not that we desire to enjoy with Krishna ourselves. That is lust, our own selfish desires for enjoyment, even with Krishna. And that will never be a ticket for the spiritual world. But when we give up, when we take this attitude of doing pure, unmotivated service for Srimati Radharani, then we can be successful at whatever we do, in this world or in the spiritual world. Srila Prabhupada indicated that in his bhajan that he sang, that he wrote on the Jaladuta, where he says that you'll be successful. I'm paraphrasing right now because I can't remember the exact quote. Maybe you can look it up after. But you'll be successful only if Radharani is pleased with you. Only if Radharani is pleased with you. So we should try our best to please Srimati Radharani. And who's Srimati Radharani's representative? The spiritual master. Her mercy is extended, her compassion is extended to the conditioned soul through the spiritual master. And so Srila Prabhupada has given us this opportunity to purify ourselves by thinking about, meditating upon, speaking about, writing about Srimati Radharani for self-purification, and then rendering selfless service. And that way we gain access to the wonderful pastimes of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. So let me just end before taking any questions that there may be with the description of how Krishna one time begged alms from Srimati Radharani. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes Radharani gets upset with Krishna. It's called man. She has a sulky mood where Krishna can't seem to do anything to please her. And so once she was in this mood and she would not meet Krishna, who wanted to enjoy with her. And so Krishna was feeling very dejected because of this. So he went to consult with Vishaka Devi, who's one of Radharani's main sakhis or main friends. And so Vishaka advised Krishna to dress himself like a Brahmin boy in disguise and to go beg alms from the house. You know, in the Vedic times, the brahmacharis, the sannyasis, Vizlanchiyas, they go house to house, bhiksha, bhiksha, calling out to receive alms. And so Vishaka told Krishna, you dress yourself like that and go to the house of Srimati Radharani and beg alms there. Now, in Vrindavan, one of the things that they do very expertly, obviously, if we read so many Leelas of Radha and Krishna, is they're expert at the matter of disguise. And so Krishna was able to disguise himself in such a way that he wasn't recognized by ordinary people who were looking out for him, like this Jatila, who is the mother-in-law of Srimati Radharani. So Krishna dressed himself up carrying a beggar bowl and other marks of a brahmachari danda. And he went to the door and he begged for alms. But Jatila, the mother-in-law of Srimati Radharani, who's always looking out to make sure Krishna's not coming around, she told the beggar to wait here and I'll give you alms. I'll give you the alms. But because she hadn't taken her bath and her daughter Kutila hadn't taken her bath, they were making cow patties. She asked Radharani to go to the door to give alms to the brahmachari beggar. So Radharani refused to go. She said, I won't go and see any other man except my husband. And so in this way, Krishna was left waiting at the door while this discussion was going on. And he called out, Mata, my time is short. I have to go. I usually only stay as long as it takes to milk a cow. Are you going to give me the alms or not? And so finally, Jatila convinced Radharani to go and give alms to the beggar. And so she put together a plate of grains, vegetables, and went to the door along with her friends to give them to the Brahmin boy. But Krishna was disguised as that Brahmin beggar. And when she came, he said, I don't want this type of alms. I've come here to beg from you a different kind of alms. I want your man or your attitude or sulkiness or being upset with me. I want you to give me that as alms. And so at that point, Radharani could realize that this beggar boy was none other than Krishna himself. And she very happily gave him his alms. But do you know how she did it? She took the tray and she just poured it on top of his head. But Krishna relished that because she uncovered her veil and showed her smiling face, which is one of the qualities of Srimati Radharani that we read. So Krishna was happy to see her smiling face, knew her mind was broken, and he left the house of Jatila with the special alms he had received from his beloved Srimati Radharani. So many pastimes we see where there's this sort of fighting spirit between the gopis and Krishna, the many Dankeli pastimes, taxing pastimes, which are described by the Goswamis, are like that. It's just a wonderful existence there in the spiritual world with Srimati Radharani, with Krishna, and the opportunity for us to do service there is available. We just have to purify ourselves, get rid of our attachments to this material world, which is not worth all the trouble we take in it, and try to love Krishna and Srimati Radharani. So those are some thoughts and some information that I hope have been helpful and enlightening to you, at least interesting to you, about Srimati Radharani. One can't, in a few minutes, a few hours, completely glorify her. But I hope that my effort at self-purification has been of some help. Hare Krishna. If anyone has any questions, comments, additions, reflections, I'd be happy to try to answer them at this point in time.
Hare Krishna devotees, anyone has any thoughts, any questions or reflections as Prabhu asked? Hare Krishna Prabhu.
If not, I can share.
Thank you so very much for enlightening us on Radha Tattva to begin with, and as well as wonderful qualities of Radharani and how Radharani actually is Krishna's counterpart. But it appears that the counterpart seems to be sometimes even put in a higher platform than the original. So it's a very interesting way. And actually, Krishna likes it that way, right? He also wants to put Mother Yasoda in a higher position than himself. So I think that's a very unique way how Krishna enjoys.
Yes. So, Krishna likes to be subordinate to his devotees.
That's right, yeah. He likes all kinds of rasas, isn't it? That's why he's known as Rasa Raj. So that's so fitting, that name for him. After reflecting on that, it looks that Srila Prabhupada, by his causeless mercy, he has given us the opportunity to serve such a wonderful understanding of the Supreme, and at the same time to engage in some manner in serving them, because ultimately whatever happens in the Goloka Vrindavan is only service, love and service. So I think Prabhupada is so nicely as engaging us in this unique way. So that's the thought came to me upon listening to your lecture.
Yeah, well, we have a wonderful opportunity given not only by Srila Prabhupada, but by the Supreme Lord himself, coming as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because we know that very intimately connected with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance in this world is his own search for answers of questions about how Radharani loves him so much and what she feels when she loves him, those intimate internal reasons for the Lord's appearance, coupled with his propagation of the Sankirtan movement, which gives us an opportunity to taste and enter into those confidential understandings of Radha and Krishna.
Certainly. May I ask you a personal question?
Yes.
When was that you happened to understand the Radha Tattva? Is it Prabhupada's lecture or by reading books, or how did you become aware of that?
Well, I don't know that I'm an expert on Radha Tattva. I'm just trying to repeat what I've heard but I do like to hear from my god brothers, from the literatures that Srila Prabhupada authorized for us to study. I think, for instance, the Nectar of Devotion of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is greatly undervalued by the devotees. It's a treasure house of bhakti yoga and outlines very clearly with examples from the Shastra how we can attain loving service to the supreme couple, Shri Radha and Krishna. Actually, I have some quotes from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. But how did I just like to hear from Shastra, study the books.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Anyway, I'd like to thank you on behalf of our devotee association in Ottawa and whoever is listening to this talk. On behalf of everybody, I'd like to thank you very much for kindly accepting to be with us this evening and giving us a wonderful understanding of, as I mentioned, Radharani's position, our glories, and everything about the divine couple, what we can grasp to our limited extent. As you said, I think the more we study Prabhupada's books, I think we'll get much more better understanding. That's for sure. So please accept our gratitude and our appreciation for this wonderful service this evening you have rendered for us. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Anyone has anything to add, please go ahead. Okay, otherwise I think if there's not further comments or any reflections, we would like to say once again thank you and bid goodbye to our special guest, because we would like to start a short kirtan right after this.
Thank you.
Very soon. Thank you again, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hare Bol.
Haribol.